writing the questions. I see Gene Fournette with his hand up. So let's go to Gene for the first one to kick us off.
Hey, Doug, could you talk a little bit about, certainly a lot of fans probably midway through the first quarter were probably lamenting your guys' position, maybe thinking a little bit of, oh no, here we go again. But at that particular time, when it looks like the Colts might go up 10-0, 14-0, whatever, what were you thinking in your mind about this young team and how they would handle that situation? While panic may be going through the stands, I'm sure that was not happening at all on the sideline.
You don't obviously, I don't want to sit here and say, you feel good. I mean, that would be quite ignorant, you know what I'm saying? And from my standpoint, you're like, okay, where are we at? Let's just get settled down. Let's try to see who's going to make a play to change the momentum. Let's not panic. We're going to get better as this game goes along. Those were kind of the thoughts, Gene, that were going through my mind. Hey, listen, we'll be fine. We'll tackle better. We'll be in better position. But what never crossed my mind was that we weren't going to be able to withstand whatever happened, whether they scored again or, we were able to stop them or whatever it may be, because I go back to, the type of team, that these guys, that we have, and, we need to continue to be that way during the course of the season.
As a follow-up to that, could you also talk about some of the signs of just composure, maturity that you saw from this group, whether it was, not having too many bad penalties with the exception of Smoot, or, Miles Jack not drawing a penalty and getting the other guy to draw a penalty, just situations like that kind of show a little bit of maturity.
Yeah, I think there was some I looked at, some obviously, with penalties, some you're going to look at and you go, I don't really know about that. And some you're going to say, hey, that's a good call. And, I look at them as far as, the errors of things that you can, in the heat of the moment that you can correct, especially, things that you can control with unforced errors. I mean, that's always the biggest one for me. Then the next thing that comes into play is, okay, the first thing, our focus now is to make sure we correct them. So a lot of the things that we had, thought offensively we did a good job. We just really had 2 penalties. Only one of them was accepted. And I think defensively we had 7. And I think the defensive ones we've talked about, we're going to address with our players of, hey, listen, it was more of the position and the technique, that put us into that position than it was anything else outside of the 2 that you mentioned for Smoot. So, which I talked to him on the sideline about. We just got to be smart. He said he was going to block a ball and you come down with your hand on the helmet. You can't do that. So that's really how I feel about how we address the penalties. And then the follow-up was, I'm sorry, I was thinking about the penalties for a minute.
Just about the maturity and composure in a lot of different moments that your team showed.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's funny. I think people put a lot of words, and rightfully so at times. They'll talk about, maturity or experience, and all those things do come into play. But when you have a young team like we have, I think the best word is probably just trust. I think that they trust each other. They trust that. Everyone's going to continue to fight. Everyone's going to continue to play. I think that's where we'll get better going on. In other words, when, hey, we watch this film and we watch the effort and we watch everything, it's of, hey, listen, you have to trust that everyone's going to do their job. Make sure you do yours. Don't look for anything else. I think those are the things that, I keep using this phrase, hey, we're going to keep moving forward. It's the same thing. Today, normally, we're with the coaches and you go through grades and, my main concern is like, when we get with our players, what are we going to be able to do to help them to continue to get better? What are we going to do? If we say, oh, we got to get better at everything, then nothing really gets better. Really picking specific things that we can sit down with them, give them specific goals during the week and, just keep working to get better. Just keep working on moving forward.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Gene. Let's go over to D-Rock and then to Smitter.
Hey, Doug, we should have asked this last night and we didn't, but your thoughts on the team's show of unity, staying in the locker room. When was that decision made? And is that something you expect going forward?
I can talk about the decision process. Like I said before, we got started right away, trying to open up this communication, and I really can't even put the words into words, really how much I've learned about really a lot of things. And I just credit the players, and the coaches. I learned from both of them, and they've given me the ability to go home and be able to share, some of those stories with my family. And, this team has come together, and, they feel, very strong, about, what change should be made. I think, in talking to Chris, and you look at the statement, we talked about it earlier in the week, trying to, kind of didn't want any last minute type decisions. I think I'm speaking for them, and I probably shouldn't, but I don't think that's what they wanted. At least that was what was conveyed to me. And this has been well thought out. This wasn't just talked about this week. We had these discussions during the year, about things that are coming up that we've got to be ready for. I think that through all this and everything that we've worked for or work to do, you truly have a chance when you see people, you see that locker room and you see everyone come together and for what I believe is obviously a great cause and one of humanity, but and be able to move forward and keep your platform focused and clear of others. And it's like I said before, I think, it's time for people to listen. It's time for people to take action. And I really think that, when you're sitting in these meetings or the meetings I've been involved with and you're listening, you feel hopeful, what I'm saying, that you have that opportunity coming up with the players that we have and the leadership we have from this team. Because, when you start discussing issues of, humanity, that's how I put it, or social justice. There's no like 5-year player, 10-year player, this guy's a captain, this person's a starter, this person's not. We're all in that room just as men, having these discussions. So where we go forward, I don't know. This comes from our leadership council, the players in the locker room. It's their platform, and I think those are great questions for them.
As a quick follow-up and a little lighter note, what did you think of Colin Johnson's backflip and the victory formation there? And did you say anything to him about it?
I seen him do it once before, and he looked pretty good at doing it. And then, I'm not one of those guys that are big on that. All you got to do is just, twist an ankle or get hurt or anything like that. So, I don't think he's trying to. I don't know. I saw it, but there was other things going through my mind. I'm sure I'll mention something to him when I see him.
But he's probably not doing that again, I would assume.
I've learned in this sport never to assume anything.
Thanks, Doug.
I just was brought up like assume, right? Make an ass out of you and me. My line coach, John Sandusky, used to say that all the time.
Good point.
Thank you, D-Rock. Appreciate it. Let's go over to Smitter and then to Culpepper.
Hey, Doug, you played a lot of rookies yesterday because you guys had a lot of rookies. It was a large draft class, and you knew you were going to rely on these guys. But you played playing 11 of them. Did you expect this, or did you go into training camp with an open mind and that these guys had to earn this privilege? And just talk about this group as a whole making the kind of contributions they did yesterday.
I kind of tried to separate. I tried to do a good job early on in camp where I was going to try to. My main focus was to give everyone an opportunity, because if you remember, what there was so much talk of hey, this is going to be the hardest year to make a football team, what these guys have to go through. And there was a lot of articles, and, it hit me at home. Here are these guys that have worked their butts off. They're going to have an opportunity, but yet we're not going to give them one. And it's something that I'm in a position as the head coach to create that, and I really, took a lot of time in trying to figure out, what was the best way to get them up to speed? What was the best way for them to compete? What was the best way for them to earn themselves a job? Because, like I said before, and I've said this many times, there's been a lot of great players in this league that have come up, as free agents or tryout players, and I've seen that, and I just didn't want to make any mistakes, and I just didn't want to assume, as D-Rock would say, I didn't want to make any assumptions, with players and what they may be doing or may not, and then so when I put the players on the field, I don't look at it as, I'm putting these these certain amount of players on the field that lack experience or anything of that nature. I look at it as, hey, I'm putting the players on the field that have earned, these opportunities. And now what they do with it, then it becomes the next part of the evaluation, that is consistent and constantly moving. How much better can they get? What mistakes do they make? What plays do they make? Is it too big for them? Too not? Of guys that you've been with for the first time. But that's a little bit no different than being with a player that comes from another team. It's different when you go through a game. You want to, like I told the coaches today, we got to sit back and just kind of evaluate, the players that we're dealing with, and during the course of the game, and how they react, and how we can get them, quickly focused or on to the next play or move. And I thought that our coaches and our players did a very good job of that on Sunday.
And the rookies are primarily playing special teams: Quarterman, Daniel Thomas, Clay Brooks, Cottrell. And I don't know how much film you've been able to evaluate on that, but did they do? I know Cottrell got down there very quick on a punt one time. And Clay Brooks made a couple of good open field tackles that limited the gain, kept the guy in front of him on that last drive. But how did you evaluate those guys?
Yeah, I thought those guys did a nice job. I think there's times you can see, special teams is very. It's either two things. It's either you're, very instinctual. What I'm saying, as a football player playing in those large open areas, or you're very experienced. I think that when you talk about players that have been highly productive, those are the words that people use. So I think for a lot of those players that you just mentioned, they had plays at times, and they had plays where maybe the experience that they've gained during this first game is they're going to be able to build on and help them, because there's a lot of different schemes, there's a lot of different things that go on. I mean, it's probably one of the more, people think X's and O's on offense and defense, but there's a ton of that on special teams. And there's a lot of things going on. There's a lot of different returns. There's a lot of different punt blocks. There's a lot of different, kickoff coverage of who people are covering, and who's coming back and being safeties, and who are the penetrators. So, there's a lot that goes on. And I would say, if I had to talk about the overall group, I would say it's a good start. And hey, listen, let's work on this improvement, and let's make more plays.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you, Smetter. Let's go over to Cole, John Reed, and then Hayes.
Hey, Doug, following on the rookie storyline here, it seems almost counterintuitive that with no OTAs and no mini camps and no preseason games, that rookies would be able to make, that many guys would be able to make that big a contribution to a game week one. I know you talked about how there wasn't as big a gap between the rookies and the veterans during camp, but did you expect to have this kind of impact in week one from so many young guys? And are there some things you look back on in terms of how you brought them along that you think will become part of your coaching approach going forward?
Well, the last part of that question, I'm not going to get too far ahead of myself. See where we are with that. Like the rules and the code, I don't know what the rules will be, as far as what we're going to do. I keep saying the same thing. I don't know if I look at it, the same way everyone else does when you talk about, the young players or the guys or the impact. I think those guys. I mean, you saw it during practice. You saw what they had. The ability that they can do, and really, and I said this before. The only thing that may pop into your mind for me, and I can't speak for the other coaches. They might have a whole different opinion of it. Just like, hey, is he going to poop down his pants? You know what I'm saying, when the lights come on. But if you're going to go by what someone's doing, every single day and how they're practicing and expect, the experience that you have as a coach, that's what's going to be able to truly carry over onto the field, then you put them out there and to when you say, expect impact of this, I think you have to expect that of anyone you put on the field. I think, how I just think it would be wrong to put someone out there and go, nah, we don't think this guy's going to make any impact. Let's just line him up there. If that was the case, then I'd sign myself and go back out there and get vested.
Thanks. Yep, appreciate it. Let's go over to John Reed.
How you doing, Coach? How would you evaluate the way your team stopped the run Sunday, and give you a good feel going into this week coming up against Tennessee?
I thought we did some things, well, and I thought we, did some things not so well. I think when you look at it, they did a good job of moving the football. I know that some people have brought up, or I've been asked questions about, bend, don't break, but, they hit us on some of those screen plays. Some of the runs, a couple got outside that, we just got to clean up some things of what we're doing. I thought early on the tackling wasn't as good as the game went along. I really thought we tackled well, as the game went along. I thought we were aggressive. I thought our guys up front were battling. I mean, you're talking about, I got a ton of respect for Indianapolis. I mean, like I said, a lot of people haven't picked to win a division, go far. They got a, experienced O-line. They got the running backs. They got great skill. They have Phillip Rivers. Defensively, they're big up front. I'm saying they're fast. They move. So there was a lot of challenges going into the game. So, I think for the most part, when you look at yardage and you look at a lot of stuff that happened, stopping those guys on those fourth downs and those critical situations, creating 2 turnovers, where we potentially could have had 3, but we had 2, when they stepped up, saying, John, when they needed to step up and make a play. And, now there's a lot of things to clean up, a lot of things technically, like just technique stuff and footwork and hand placement, leverage. But some of those guys, there was some good plays out there by those guys.
Thanks, John. Appreciate it. Let's go over to Hayes and then Cassidy.
Hey, Doug. Gardner was historical yesterday. Did the tape match up with seeing it live in person?
Yeah, I don't. I mean, very rarely. It's hard for me because, like I always tell you guys, I think after the game I can pretty much answer, everything that's going on. I think he's worked extremely hard. I thought that, as the game went along later on in the game, some of those crucial third downs, I thought he had really good footwork, really good timing. I think, so that's positive. But I would say yes. I mean, I thought that, he made good decisions. He's not looking for one person or trying to do too much. We're all trying to do it together and be a team. I don't think any one of us needs to feel, an extra burden because we think we have to make up for something. I think that we look at, the guys on the field that we have out there, we look at as guys that are, all part of it. Even in the run game, I thought the receivers, really, really did a heck of a job. That's something that doesn't, get looked at quite a bit. But, they were coming in there, because you don't really know. I mean, during training camp, you're not going to bring your receivers in there and go knock the heck out of somebody. You know what I'm saying? But, I thought our receivers did a good job from that aspect of it. So, it's really on everyone, every play, to do what they can do. And I think Gardner, feels that. He feels the support of the team. I think every one of our players feel that they're supported, through their teammates and coaches, and I think that's important.
What does D.D. Westbrook have to do to get playing time?
I don't know. I mean, he was hurt for so long, so we're just getting him back. So I don't think it's a matter of, hey, here's a guy who was healthy with your all training camp and who wasn't up. Here's a guy that has missed a lot of time. So, he's working hard and just, on the side, and he's working hard in practice, and, he's working his way to get back.
Cool. Thanks.
Thank you, Hayes. We're going to do 2 final questions here. We're going to go Cassidy and then finish with John Shipley.
Hey, Coach. Wait, it says I'm still muted. Can you hear me?
Nope, you're good.
Sorry. How much of what you did see from Gardner yesterday, either throwing guys open, moving the pocket, ball security, how much was things he's had since you drafted him versus how much was what he worked on this offseason?
The first part, I heard the second part was how much you've worked hard this offseason, but what was the first one?
Right. How much of what you saw from him yesterday on tape and watching him were aspects of his game he's always had versus how much he worked on this offseason?
Tad, you're going to have to help me with that one. I can't, it's not coming through clearly.
Yeah, can you hear me, Coach?
Yes, you're clearer. Sorry, it's just the
Sorry,
mic.
guys.
She said, how much of what you saw from Gardner in the game yesterday, the ball security, moving the pocket, throwing receivers open, how much of that is stuff that he's worked on over the course of last year and through this offseason, or is that stuff that he had when the team drafted him last year?
I didn't know what we had when we drafted him. I mean, I've already been on record with that. So, like I said, I'm moving forward. But anyway, he he works extremely hard. Like I said before, I don't know what that personality stuff is that you guys keep talking about. I just know the guy comes in and works hard all the time. So, I think he's a guy that learns quite quickly. He's going to continue. He'll learn from this game. He always wants to get better, always wants to do better, and he doesn't want to let anyone down, his teammates down. I think that's what makes him a great team player. So, I mean, he's worked hard, this offseason. He's worked hard in camp along with everybody else. So, it's not surprising to see the ball security and things of that nature, to see everyone, working hard for each other, and it's something that we need to just continue to get better. I mean, we can't stay where we are right now. We got to continue to keep pushing ourselves and get better. And we got the guys, we have the right mindset of players that want to do that. And a lot of times on offense, it starts with the quarterback, and that's exactly where he is. I mean, he's always consistently been in here trying to work to get better. And I think that flows through the team. And, you have certain guys at certain positions, leaders in each position group that feel the same way. I mean, they want more, they want to be better, they want to be better teammates. And I think that's what the key is.
Thank you, Cassidy. Let's finish up with John Shipley.
Hey, Coach, you touched on it a little bit when you talked about the tackling earlier, but after watching the game tape and knowing how big of a test the Colts offensive line was, how do you feel about how the run defense was?
Yeah, I think we have a chance to get a lot better. I think we really do. We have a chance to improve. I think, just from a standpoint of positioning and knowing, not trying to do too much. I saw a little bit of that, but as far as holding the point against guys that, have knocked us around at times and, getting, players off blocks so this way it can free people up, being aggressive. I thought, we got good play, with our safeties, coming up and making plays. Josh Jones made plays. J-Dub made plays. I'm talking about in the box in the run game. So I think there's enough. There's a lot of positive stuff that went on, during the course of the game. But for me, there's a lot of stuff, that when we get the players, we'll talk about. And we can get them better, and that's what our job is as coaches. So I feel good. I really believe that we'll keep improving as we go along, because we have another test coming up, this week.
Thanks, Coach. Appreciate it.
Yep.
All right. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. We'll see everybody on Wednesday.